Hello everybody, it's Karen Auha. Hey, with Art Moxie, and I ran a poll this weekend. I am going to be doing a hunting and fishing series for June, and June is Father's Day. Weekend is in there somewhere towards the end of the month, but I wanted to add one painting to the collection I'm going to be unveiling, and on, I think it's Thursday, I asked for your help to help me choose a fish to paint, and I wanted like a sporting type fish, right, like, or a fly fish. So I asked all of my Facebook groups to help me pick a fish, and the overwhelming response was a rainbow trout. And I'm going to kind of show you what I'm using as my inspiration photo. And let me see here. I don't know if you can see that. So here's the rainbow trout. I just pulled it off of, I think, the Oklahoma, one of the Oklahoma fishing sites, like the official tourism site. And I'm just using this as my inspiration photo. I've got the fish sketched out, and I've also put a nice thin layer of kind of a turquoisey, teal, white background. And what that allows for me to do is work with this piece and kind of clean it up so that I could find my lines. So coming in here a couple minutes early. I told y'all that I would be coming in at 10, but I haven't painted for myself in such a long time, and this is kind of a painting that I typically don't paint for my art licensing clients. I'll probably end up sending this off to them, but I typically wouldn't paint a fish for my art licensing clients, and it's just kind of a challenge, and it's something a little bit different than I typically do, and so I'm excited. So I think it's like 10 till 10, and I said I wasn't going to start this till 10 o'clock, but I'm sorry, I just had to start early. And as I look at this, I'm not in really the best spot with the best light for you guys to view this, but I'm in the right spot for me to paint. So I'm just gonna kind of like let you know there's might be some shadows on your screen. But anyway, so okay, so here we are. And the reason I'm coming in earlier is because I really need to use the hair dryer to dry off the next step, but I thought you might be interested in seeing it, and I didn't really want to run the hair dryer during my live, but anyway. So if we look at this fish, there's this really nice pink, and kind of like sometimes in pictures it comes out red, and sometimes it's this nice pink color. And so I'm going to use what's called a fluid acrylic, and it's actually a high flow fluid acrylic. And again, I think you can read this on here. I'm not sure if this is backwards, but it's a golden product. It's quinacridone magenta, and it is going to just it's going to move a lot. And this is the fun part of painting. And again, this is probably why I picked this to do on a Saturday morning. So Saturday morning, of course, my kids are sleeping still, and my husband likes to ride his bike. So Saturday mornings is a really good time for me to paint. So what I just did is I took a water bottle, and I'm just adding water. And the reason I do that is water can be your friend, but you have to be okay with what happens when you do this, right? So you lose control, but I've found that sometimes when you lose a little bit of control in the way that you paint, these beautiful, wonderful markings happen, and you could have never planned for them, but you just need to have a good eye for knowing when to keep it and when to let it go. So, all right, I'm trying to make sure that there we go. Okay, so once again, this is called a high flow fluid acrylic. It has intense color. So, but like, look at this. Super gorgeous. All right. So right now, I'm just gonna let that color move for me. And it's done moving, but I'm gonna add a little bit more water to it. And my water has a little bit of white mixed in with it because I was painting with that white before, but that's actually probably the right color. And then there's this spot right here as well. So I really like using fluid acrylics. I think they're fun. And they're, you know, for folks who are on here, you like to paint as well. There are two kinds of fluid acrylic. There's a high flow, which I just showed you, and then there's what's considered to be the basic fluid acrylic, right? So it's just an orange. This is orange, but it's just called fluid acrylics. They're just high intensity colors. They have really good transparency, so you can do a lot of really nice layering, and this piece will probably have some layering on it. So here's the thing, like, I'm just gonna go with this and allow for some of this color here to stay for now, because I can always get rid of it later. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and turn on this. I don't know if you noticed, but the hairdryer moves around some of the water, so I knew that color, that wasn't going to work there, so I helped the hairdryer out, and I just took it off faster. So hey, Shauna, I see you're on here. I mean, I'm using your hair dryer. I hope you don't mind. You're probably like, that's my hair dryer. And I'm like, I know, I can't find mine. So thanks for letting me borrow it. But hey, as you're kind of watching through this, this is part I love. I love the fact that, you know, this isn't perfect, but yet it's gonna really create that scaliness that I need later on for the rainbow trout. You know, that nice that nice color palette that goes down the middle of a trout. And here's another thing, that as I'm painting, even though I'm using one main inspiration photo, let's see here, let me get this back on. Even though I'm using one main inspiration photo, I also have, like on the page that I'm using, I have all these other options that I can choose from, and I can pull in some of the oranges and the blues. So this fish, when it's finished, really won't look like this. It'll be a combination of other fish that I'm using, right? So, all right, let's get started. So a couple things I want to tell you when I'm jumping in and I'm getting started doing a painting. I love using music. However, when I incorporate music into my Facebook videos, I guess I'm breaking copywriting rules, or the use of that music, and then my videos get shut down. So I'm going to be painting with either headphones or quietly, and you can put on your own music if you would like to, because I know sometimes it's more fun to listen to music, but unfortunately Facebook doesn't let me do that. I'm also going to go through periods of time where I might talk to you a little bit about what I'm doing, or talk to you about something that's on my mind, but there will be times when I'm just quiet. I'm really just processing and looking through this. So hey, I won't be answering questions while I'm painting, but if you do have any questions during this live video, if you want to leave the comments in the comment section, I'll go back and I'll look at your comments, and I would love to have a conversation about art. So go ahead, if you want to leave comments, I would love to, after the video is finished, read through them, and then I'll get back to you if you have questions. All right, okay, so I'm just gonna kind of get started. I'll probably tell you a little bit about the colors I'm choosing, and we'll go from there. One of my favorite colors is this green gold, and the rainbow trout is a fish that just has this color, and so I'm super excited I get to use it. So I'm gonna just layer it. I'm just gonna start layering in some translucent colors. And another one that is kind of one of my staples in my paintings is this teal color, and I'm excited because it's gonna work in this painting. White it up a little bit. Oops. It's okay. It's okay. You can get rid of that. I'll sew into it. I sew into it. I flipped my paintbrush, but I do want to get rid of those right now. Since I am working with I want to do this fish first with a primarily light background, so I don't want any splashes to dry on it for right now, but I'm going to also do this with a gray background. I think traditionally this kind of painting is done on a white background, and people like that. And so, you know what, sometimes you just do what people like. But when I'm actually finished with this painting, I think I'm going to have a super dark background with it. But anyway, yeah. So like, no worries. That's the last thing you want to do when you're painting. Like with the paintbrush, you're so excited that the paintbrush jumps out of your hand. You take that as a good sign. You don't freak out. But the best thing to do right now is to let some areas dry. Otherwise, when you start messing with them, they don't, especially a detailed area, you can see that the green is moving into the black of his eye. So it's just a good sign to move to a different place, because we got plenty of other places to play. Now, the fun thing about rainbow trout, which I was actually really excited that won, is that they have so much texture, right? They have polka dots. I know, guys, if you're watching this, you're going to tell me it's not a polka dot, but they have polka dots and they have stripes and they have color. And so right now I'm doing what's called blocking in, and it's a time where you're really just working on values, making sure that your color choices are working, and then I'll be putting in those really nice markings next. So sometimes I just pour paint straight onto the canvas, and just makes it easier not to have to go back and forth. Ooh, look at how that's moving. That's okay. That's the fun part. Like when you're painting wet and it starts moving like that, I love that. That's my thing. Now it's super wet over there, so I don't really know what it's going to end up looking like when it's finished. This fish has like all this really bright, wonderful color. And I'm actually using Van Dyke Brown, which a lot of artists are like, you don't need to use brown straight out of the tube. You can make it yourself. But here's the thing. This little guy, he's really bright. But when we put in some of these nice neutral colors, like a Van Dyke Brown, it's going to make those bright areas, it's the contrast, it's going to make them even look poppier. It's going to like really pull them through. So I'm actually just using a brown to create some of that contrast. And then I'm working over by the eye. It might be a little early. I might be making a mistake here, but there really are no mistakes with acrylics, especially. All I need to do is wait about 15 minutes and I can fix it. So that's how I look at it. So look over here how it was, it's kind of getting a little bit soupier now. So I'm gonna dry some of it off. I don't want it to mix too much more. It's probably it'll end up being a really nice color. So I sketched this out with a graphite pencil, and sometimes what's nice about that is I can just use that graphite, those lines, to create a really soft edge. I don't always do that, but like this time, because my background is so light on this fish, I'm gonna have to do something like that. Okay, so now, because I'm working so wet, I have to let this dry, and I'm gonna clean up my water and probably use the hair dryer again in a couple minutes. I'm gonna set them up and look at them straight on, and you can look at them that way with me too. And then I'm gonna make some adjustments to him. But we're getting to the point where I can start adding in some of the details of his markings. And but right now I feel like we have a really good base. Just need to let this dry so it doesn't drip when I turn it upright. So I'm gonna do a little bit of house cleaning. See, look how dirty that water is. Can you see? It's not too bad. I've seen worse, but I gotta get it cleaned. Okay, so I popped over onto Facebook to see if we had any comments or questions. And hey, thanks, Roxanne. I'm super excited that you are enjoying watching me paint. I'm like enjoying even seeing the video. It's so different when you're painting than you see it in a video. You actually can make really good evaluations. So that is why I'm going to dry this now. And I would like to set it upright and really take a look at this from a different perspective. So let me see here. Let's get this on. There we go. So here's what's fun again is you get to see some of this really wet paint moving. Because of the, it's super wet, right? So really like how the color layering is happening, and now it's time really just to kind of start cleaning them up. So I've been blocking them in, finding the right colors in the right area, giving him some shaping just by color values. And how I'm placing colors next to each other. So it is super wet down here with this, where his tail is. Dry him up a little bit. And I also like how he's kind of, all these colors are starting to make it look like scales, right? I'm starting to get that effect. Okay, so let me set him upright and move the camera. Okay, all right. So here he is, he's upright, and I'm looking at him and I'm going, okay, really like what's happening in here, right? His rainbow trout ness. Again, I'm not a fisherwoman. His rainbow troutness is really coming through, and I like how all of this texture, especially from a distance, is starting to look like scales, right? So there are areas that need to be blended out, and there are areas that maybe some of the water is making distracting marks, but those will be choices I'm going to be making. I need to work definitely in his eye area, right? Because when you're working with animals, their eyes are the most important part. So I'm going to be cleaning that up, and then I'm going to also be working the background. The background right now is helpful because I want it to have maybe a shimmering of light and kind of imply that it's, you know, water. And like I said, I'm going to do two versions of this. One version is going to be a really light background, similar to this. I'll be working it. And the next background is going to be a really dark background. Maybe like, I don't know, let me see here. I'm thinking, okay, so I've been playing with kind of a really dark gray blue background, and I'm wondering if that won't really pop him as well. This is my puppy. This is my puppy. I'm still working on him for a pet portrait, but for myself, but I'm looking at like this kind of color instead. You're like a really dark color. I'm going to see if that doesn't work too. So here's the deal on this. This is going to be the final piece in my hunting and fishing collection that I'm going to be unveiling in a couple weeks. Well, actually probably next weekend. And he'll be added to that, and I will show you the finished product. I'm going to continue working on it by myself, all right? Because it's really time for me to start digging into the details and really working through what's working and not working. I love sharing.